to start as a beginner, how to create your first notebook, how to input sources, and basically everything about the interface. In today's video, I'm going to delve deeper into how we can build integrated notebooks and have an external database for our studies. So let's jump right in. So this is my own account, which I use for NotebookLM. In the previous video, I showed you a different account just as a beginner account to show you how everything is going to be like. So after you've created your notebooks, this is how NotebookLM is going to look like for you. Now, you can actually view NotebookLM in a full screen just by pressing Function and F11 so that you enter into full screen if you don't want to have any disturbances from, let's say, your tax bar or any notifications or anything like that. You can just press Function F11 and enter into full screen. So I'm going to keep it in full screen right here. So now, what are we actually going to use NotebookLM for, right? Our studies. And I said that we can effectively have everything in one app, from understanding, organization, and memorization. Okay, how are we going to do this? Well, the easiest way is to just create notebooks on specific topics, right? So let's say I create a notebook on this topic, environmental health and water supply systems, and I input the slides for environmental health and water supply systems right here into the notebook. So when I press on it, so I'm going to input the slide right here. Sometimes when you press on it, it takes some time. So you just have to, hold on. This is the source guide. And then let me just ask a question. So let me talk about water supply systems. Right. So this is just default NotebookLM. You press on that button and then you discuss water supply systems, which is coming from your source. So this is a notebook based on only one topic. Now you can have a lot of notebooks based on a lot of topics, right? But then you find out that in medical school, what we are learning, the topics are not isolated. There's actually some integration or links between the topics that we are studying. And so you find out that if you have a notebook on acute pancreatitis, a notebook on acute cholecystitis, a notebook on this, a notebook on individual topics, it's good and all, right? But then you are not able to see the links between them because the notebooks can't talk with each other. So you'd want to create what we call integrated notebooks, right? You want to create integrated notebooks whereby instead of one notebook, one topic, it's actually going to be one notebook, many topics. You understand? So when I ask it a question, when you see from the previous video, I told you how we can turn on and turn off sources. So when I ask NotebookLM a question, I can turn on a source that it should come from only one slide or one PowerPoint, or I can let all the sources be on, such that when I ask a question on a particular topic, it's going to give me every single place that topic has been mentioned. So when I ask a question on, say, pneumonia, it's not just going to give me pneumonia from only one source. It's going to give me pneumonia from all the sources inside my notebook. And so I can see how does pneumonia relate to every other topic in medicine. How does cholecystitis relate to every other topic in surgery? That's what the importance of the integrated notebooks are. Because when you have individual notebooks for individual topics, right? Let's see this. So you have another topic here. Where is it? Yes. Principles of disease surveillance and outbreak control. So this is one topic and this is one slide, right? So you have one topic, one slide, or one topic, or one notebook, one topic, sorry. So you have one notebook, one topic. You can't really see how this disease control topic connects to another topic in community health. Same thing if it was an individual topic in medicine or surgery. So yes, you can chat here, you can create outputs, you can do all of that, but you can't really see how the topics are relating together. And for a student, not just any student, for a medical student, not just any medical student, but especially for a final year medical student, it's very important that you see how the topics are related together, How does acute pancreatitis connect to acute coronary syndrome if there is a connection? How does venous thromboembolism connect to diabetes? And so you want to see how has this topic been mentioned in another topic? Is it as a complication? Is it as a risk factor? Is it whatever it may be? Because NotebookLM is able to search through all your sources effectively, you don't do that, searching or that linking by yourself. NotebookLM can do that for you. And so that's why we are going to create integrated notebooks. So now, buckle up. We are going to go in real deep. So we are going to start with surgery integrated notebooks. Then we'll look at medicine integrated notebooks. So the integrated notebooks are having a lot of sources. That's why when you look down here, you can see that this integrated notebook has 60 sources. When you look here, medicine final year integrated, 89 sources. When you look here, surgery final year integrated, 87 sources. You understand? And as I said in the first video, we looked at the Notebook LM plans. We saw that the free tier was only allow us to do 50 sources. So when I go back out and then I go and click on the free tier back in the plans, we saw that the free tier only allowed us to be able to have 50 sources per notebook, which is fine. But when you are building an integrated notebook, which is what? A notebook whereby you are putting all the surgery topics inside. We know that we have about 70 surgery topics to study, right? And then you also want to add information from other relevant textbooks like Badger, Clinical Surgery Tutorial, Norman Brown's. If you are in medicine, you want to add relevant textbooks like Oxford Handbook of Medicine, the Red Book that we use, Hutchinson, and other books, right? Along with all the 70 to 80 different topics that we are studying, then you can't rely on just 50 sources per notebook. And so you would have to upgrade so that when you upgrade, you can have a lot of sources in one notebook. Same applies to past questions. We know the importance of studying with past questions, right? We know the importance of using past questions to prime ourselves before we study so that we can see the trends with respect to the topic and all of that. We know the importance of using past questions to test ourselves to simulate how our exams are actually going to be like. But then there are a lot of past questions in medical school. We have about 200 past questions in surgery, 150 past questions in medicine, and about 100 past questions in community health. So how can we look through all these past questions individually just to try and extract a question per one topic that we are studying? How we can do this is by building integrated notebooks. So let me just come into full screen. So we can build integrated notebooks. So this is where I have Surgery Pascal 5th team, Surgery Pascal 1st team, Surgery Pascal 4th team, Medicine Pascal 2nd team. These are integrated notebooks. So when I open my Surgery Pascal 1st team, all the past questions are here, right? And then when I ask it a question, that is maybe extract questions based on this particular topic. So look at this example. Extract questions from my uploaded past exam papers relating to burns. This is the requirement. What he's going to do is that he's going to extract every single burns question from all the past questions. So instead of me to open all the past questions individually, right? Notebook LM is going to go through all of them and extract all the burns questions for me. So when you look here, you see all the burns questions have been extracted. So let me just press here and then we can focus here. So now all the Ben's questions have been extracted. It's going to show me where that question is coming from. So this question, where is it coming from? And from our previous video, we talked about the in-text citations. Exactly. So you can see that this question 79 is actually coming from this paper or from this document, right? And then when you press here, you can see that, oh, this question has repeated in another document, or it has repeated. Yes, that's how it is, right? Or it has repeated as another question. You understand? So This is how you can extract past questions. But you can't extract past questions when you don't build integrated notebooks. Now, what I was doing was that when I didn't have the paid tier and I was only having a limit of 50 sources, here you can see that I only have 48. I was actually supposed to have Sergi Pascal and then one notebook on Sergi Pascal with all the sources inside. But then I didn't have the paid version. So I had to input 50 past questions into one into one notebook. And then I input the rest into another notebook. And that's why said I have first team, I have fourth team, second team. Basically, I have five different notebooks on Sergi past questions. So if I put a prompt into one notebook, I have to go and put the prompt into other notebooks. Now, you can build your own N or B or Sergi Pascal integrated notebook, whereby every single Sergi Pascal is inside. But the thing is, about past questions, you don't really need to like see a lot of links like that. And so if you can just rely on individual notebooks when it comes to surgery, because the past questions are still going to be a lot. But then if you have the money to pay for the higher tiers, and I'll talk about the economics later, then you can build a surgery Pascal notebook with 150 sources inside. But honestly, when it comes to past questions, you don't really need to see, you need to see the links and then the trends, but having individual notebooks is quite enough. But that's not the same when it comes to the other integrated notebooks. So now, this is how the past questions are like. And so the same concept, you hover over the area, you can see where this question is coming from. And then one cool feature about Notebook LM is that when you hover over the area, you can see where that output is coming from. But when you click on it, it will jump you right there into the source. This is so amazing. It will jump you right there into the source. So in this document called Tutor Questions, it has jumped me right here into where this question is found. So that's a very good feature. And then you can see, other questions which are beside it and all of that. This applies to every single document, every single, source that you've inputted into Notebook LM. So if I hover over here, I see that it's coming from this document. If I click it, it's going to jump right there into where that information is coming from. So effectively, you can read the document right here in Notebook LM without going into another place. Now I'll show you a lot more on my Pascal workflow later. This is just the basics, but this is some of the really cool things that we can do into Notebook LM. We were talking about this Pascal and all when we were talking about building integrated notebooks. So let's jump into the main integrated notebooks. Now, apart from the past questions, the main integrated notebooks that we have are OSCE integrated and then the final year integrated. Now you can rename them, anyhow you want. I just rename them like this. So now, OSCE integrated is basically a notebook whereby we put all the different OSCE files and Viva files in surgery, in medicine, and we put them here. And then we also add our OSCE textbooks and all. So when you look in my surgery OSCE integrated, I have all the OSCE documents, all the picture OSCEs, all the screenshots, every single OSCE document. Plus, I have my clinical surgery tutorial OSCE books, right? So whenever I ask it any question, it's going to look through these documents and give me the answer. Why we need to build an OSCE integrated notebook is that you want to the same concept. Instead of going through all these documents just to see how thyroid examination has been asked in the previous years, right? You can effectively just ask Notebook LM to teach you how to perform a thyroid examination. Now, Notebook LM is going to go through all your sources and then mention every single place that thyroid examination has been mentioned. So whether it was mentioned as a past question, whether it was mentioned as an OSCE template, whether it was mentioned as a clacking template, any place that it was mentioned, right? And then one cool feature that we are going to use, we talked about it in a previous video, configuring your notebook. And so when you configure your notebook, Notebook LM is going to know how to act. Just a brief sample of this. When I press here, Notebook LM is now my final year MBCHB Surgery OSCE examiner and clinical performance coach. Basically, Notebook LM is like my OSCE examiner. So there are a lot of things in this custom prompt. But when I ask it a question, how to perform thyroid examination, it doesn't just give me any answer. The format of the answer is based on my prompt, which is inside its configuration. You understand? So the format of my answer, that it should start from introduction, go into the preparation, go into inspection, palpation, percussion, auscultation, and everything, right? It's all inbuilt into my configuration. And that's why you must configure your notebook. Because if you've not configured your notebook like this, yes, you can ask it how to perform thyroid examination and it's going to give it to you. But then when you configure it like this, your answers become more specific. You understand? So this is how the OSCE integrated is. Now, again, this is just a brief overview. I don't want to talk about the OSCE integrated much now because what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be creating a lot more videos on the OSCE integrated, on the Pascal and everything. You understand? But essentially, these are some of the things that we can do in Notebook LM. So we reduce the amount of time that we have to use to go and search for sources. We reduce the amount of time that we have to use to go and actually look into our sources and get the information that we want to. And then we can just spend more time doing an active process, which is actually learning the information. So now to the main integrated notebook, surgery final year integrated, medicine final year integrated. Now let's press on surgery final year integrated. So now it's the same thing I'm going to show him, right? This is how the window is like. You can see we have 87 sources here, and this today is it. So 87 sources. These are all the topics in surgery, right? All the topics in surgery are right here in one notebook. So from all that we've been talking about, we can ask a question and it's going to extract the answer from all of these sources without us having to go and do that reading by ourselves. And so when I ask it a question, it extracts the answer from all the sources, provided I am selected all of them. So if I deselect them and I select maybe one source, then it's going to give me the output based on only that source. Now, that is why, as I said, we need to build an integrated notebook. So when you have this, I also have Badger, right? Badger textbook here. The limit when you are uploading a source is for the file size is 200 megabytes. Badger is a big file, about 400 megabytes. So that's why I had to divide it into three. And I'll show you how I was able to do that one. I have my Norman Browse textbook here. I have my clinical surgery tutorial textbook here. I even have tutorial anatomy and physiology textbook here. And so the essence of this is that all the textbooks, all the slides, every single resource in surgery is now in one place. And I can read them, I can, ask questions, I can do everything all in one place, all in one app. You understand? This is the external database that I have been talking about from the Study Smarter Not Harder series all the way through to these videos, putting all the resources into one place. And if by any chance you happen to come across any source, you can just click on add sources. So far as it hasn't reached the limit, you can input the source also inside. Also, you can just remove a source if you have reached the limit or summarize a number of sources. Now, before we look at how we can build this, I want to just show the essence of all of this, right? We already know that we can ask it question and then to go through all the sources and then give us the answer. But practically, how does this feel like? So now, before I go on that, let me just touch on a little bit on organization. So organizing medical knowledge here in medical school is basically based on specialties: general surgery, orthopedics and trauma, pediatric surgery, and the rest. When you go to medicine, cardiology, pulmonology, and the rest. So with the topics, what I did was that I renamed them by just coming here, clicking on this button, and then renaming the source. And then when I rename them, I add a particular group of letters before the name of the topic. So when you see CTS, it basically means that cardiothoracic surgery. When you see JS in front of a topic name, it basically means that general surgery. So when I do it like that, when you see, say, MF, it means that maxillofacial surgery. NS, it means that neurosurgery. OT, it means that orthopedics and trauma. PLS means that plastic surgery. When you see PS, it means that pediatric surgery. When you see UR, it means that urology. And so now you are able to see that I've organized the topics into specialties right here in Notebook LM. You understand? And so when I want to search for only my general surgery topics, I'll just do Control F GS. And now I'm going to search for all my general study topics. So when I scroll here, all my general study topics have been highlighted. And so if I wanted to, let's say, ask a question that I want it to come from only general study, or I want to generate an audio, generate flashcards, generate quiz, and I only want it to come from general study, I'll just disable the sources like this. And because only the general study topics have been highlighted, I just come and I click on the general study topics. You understand? So that's some of the importance of organizing your stuff like this. It helps so that you can see where all the topics are. Again, before we come into the chat and see the effectiveness of this practically, you can also read your slides right here in Notebook LM. So I showed in the first video how we were able to read that research document and how we pressed on a button to go and even read it online if you wanted to. You can effectively read your slides in Notebook LM. And so you don't need to jump into another app to read slides if you've actually converted it well. So right now, let's say I want to read this slide on acute abdomen. When I press on it, I can effectively read this slide on acute abdomen right here in Notebook LM. So it's going to give me the source guide, and then I can read the slides right here in Notebook LM. You understand? So if I click on sources and I go back and I want to read this slide on C goitres. So when I press on it, sometimes it takes long, it might not be responsive and all, but then it's going to come. So when I press on it, I can read the slides or the PowerPoint presentation on goitres right here in Notebook LM. So the reason why I said we can do everything in one app is that you can read your slides in Notebook LM without going out of the window. You can solve questions in Notebook LM. You can ask it questions. You can do everything from understanding, organization, memorization, all in one app. If I even wanted to, as I said, open this app or this, slide or PowerPoint in a website to view it well, probably as a presentation or, slideshow or anything, I can just press that button and I can view it well like this. Now, take note of this thing called Google Slides. We'll come to it. So effectively, as I said, I can read my sources right here. If it's a textbook, when I click on it, I can read it here. So if it loads, I can effectively read the textbook right here in Notebook LM. So now let's talk about the chat, right? We already talked about the chat when we were in our previous video, talking about how when we input, something in the chat like a question, Notebook LM gives us the answer. So as you can see, just not intentional, but I hovered over this number 32 and it showed me the exact location where this particular information is coming from. That this particular information is actually coming from this normal browse textbook. So I don't need to go and open on my browse textbook and then click or like scroll all the way to that part of the textbook, right? Notebook LM does that for me. So now let's do this practically, right? So I'm going to do this practically. Teach me Benz. So now if you configure your notebook, I've shown you configuration in our previous video and in this video also. For my integrated notebooks, it's basically the same prompt, just that I just changed it from surgery to medicine or medicine to surgery. So this prompt is something that is already inside. That's why you've configured it. And you see the number of characters that it took, right? 2000. So thank God for the Google update about a week ago. So here it says, you are my final year MBCAB clinical reasoning assistant in surgery. Now all of this is important, right? And also, disclaimer, these prompts I got them from ChatGPT, so that one here. So now you must think and respond like an examiner, a clinician managing real patients, a tutor preparing a student for final MBCAB surgery, Ghana context, and then we are going to begin. So effectively, I put in a prompt for long cases that when I ask it a question on a particular topic, that teach me bends, teach me scrotal swellings, teach me cholecystitis, teach me any topic, right? It's going to go in a particular format. So in a particular structure, which is the DAPSICAM format. So definition, epidemiology, pathophysiology, etiology, and all of that. So it's going to go in this format, right? Which I have already inputted. When it reaches investigations, it will go bedside, lab, imaging, next best step. When it reaches management, it will go like this. You understand? When it reaches complications, it's going to go like that. Afterwards, it's going to give me red flags, like where a lot of students most of the time get wrong with respect to the topic. It's going to give me common examiner traps and some viral questions that they may ask. And then these are some of the other things that I wanted to, just ground itself with respect to the output. It shouldn't omit anything, and then it should always include next best step, right? It should be concise but clinically complete. This is for what I call long case. So basically, when I ask it to teach me bends, it's going to have this in mind such that the output is going to go in this order. If I ask a short case, like let's say Ben's short case, it's going to generate this short case for me, taking key findings, likely diagnosis, important differentials, and all of that. If I say word round mode, this is what it's going to do. 2 minute concise format, problem list style, current status, investigations pending, and all of that. If I say revision mode, this is what it's going to do. And the most important one, practice questions. So when I ask it for practice MCQs, this is how it's going to be like. So just going through the prompt so that you can see it. And then I'll share all of these prompts in the description so that you can easily copy and paste into yours. Now, I always make my responses longer and I save it. Effectively, what happens is that you don't even need to like type a lot of things here and be doing copy and paste and all, because you've already configured the notebook. When you say teach me bends, it goes in that order. So let's look at it. Let me just close the side panels, and then we can focus on the chat output. So now, teach me bends is going to start. As your clinical reasoning assistant, I have structured this teaching session on bends according to the final MBCHB long case standards, integrating key physiological principles with specific relevance to the Ghanaian surgical environment. Right? Why is it saying as your clinical reasoning assistant? Because that's the configuration that we gave. That is my final year MBCAB clinical reasoning assistant in surgery. And so therefore, because I've configured the notebook, it's going to give me specific what? Output. And so we are going to start with the summary. We are going to go to the definition, any relevant anatomy and physiology. Basically, go through the whole topic in the DAPSICAM format. And as I said, the output is such that I have 87 sources, and then all the outputs have been selected, right? So it's taking every single information about burns throughout the whole surgery. So I'm not just getting information only from the burns topic. I'm getting information from every single place that burns has been mentioned in surgery. You understand? And then you can see the evidence of that via the in-text citations. So if I hover over here, I can see where this information comes from Badger. And so you can see that you can actually read the whole Badger here. And as I showed you, you can click on the source and then it will go into the side panel to where the sources are and then jump to that exact page where that information is coming from. So when you come here, you can see that it is going to jump to that exact page where that information is coming from. Now, sometimes it doesn't work all of the time, but then most of the time it works. But then sometimes it doesn't work all of the time like this. But then what I usually do is that I just use the hovering feature. Sometimes depending on the speed of your computer and all of that, it can cause not responding and other things. So or slow down. So I just usually use the hovering feature, which is pretty much enough for me. So again, if I hover over here, I can see that this is coming from the PLS Ben slice, right? If I click on this and I hover over here, this is coming from Badger. If I hover over here, this is coming again from Badger. This is coming from the PLS Ben slice. This is coming from. So basically, what is happening is that it is extracting every single thing relating to Benz, right? But it's extracting them from all over surgery. You understand? So effectively, you know that Badger is a big textbook. And sometimes you can get bored when you are reading that textbook. Same thing for all the other textbooks. Right now, you don't have to go and do that searching for information in the textbook. NotebookLM will do that for you. And so NotebookLM will show you that this is the actual information that is relevant when it comes to burns. So from clinical surgery tutorial, NotebookLM has shown me that the burns information that you are looking for, instead of you to go and open the textbook by yourself, it has done that for you. And as I said, when you press on it, it will jump you to that exact location, right? And so now, in this situation, I think it has, or it hasn't. Yes, it has. So now it has brought me to the exact location in chapter 26. I can go and open this book, all right, in a PDF, let's say WPS or any other app. But the Notebook LM does that for me. And so if there is any relevant anatomy and physiology thing that I need to know, right, I don't need to go and read the whole tutorial anatomy and physiology just to be able to find the anatomy that is specific or relevant to the disease. I just hover over here and then it is going to show me if it's coming from tutorial. It's going to show me where that information is coming from. And then it's going to show me if there is any relevance, right? So now you can see tutorial. It's talking about the hair follicles and others, right? Here, NotebookLM has gone inside the tutorial textbook and has shown me the information that is relevant to the disease. So I don't need to go and read the whole topic or the whole system in tutorial, right? Or in any other anatomy and physiology textbook. So to ground myself in anatomy and physiology, I study the anatomy and physiology that is relevant to the topic. And NotebookLM does that for me. So this is how I've been using it to study when it comes to my topics. As I said, it's effectively bringing all the information together. So it's more or less a summary. So even though the output is really good, and it's more or less a summary. So when you hover over there, you can go and see the details even more. You understand? So sometimes they like summarize what the other resources have said. So when you hover over there, you can go and read it even better. Okay. So now when you have this source output like this, per the configuration, all right, per the configuration, red flags, common examiner traps, and all, you can see how it arranged the investigations, bedside, lab, imaging. You saw how it arranged the management. You saw how it arranged the complications. And now see that it is giving me red flags. See, it is giving me common examiner traps, and it is giving me viral questions. So in just teach me Benz, it has generated all of this for me. Let's do another one, right? Let's do another one. Teach me cholecystitis. So now I'm just going to press enter. Teach me cholecystitis. No further prompts, right? If I just said teach me cholecystitis without configuring this notebook, it's not going to give me the best of responses. But because I already have configured this notebook, It's going to give me the best response based on my configuration. And as you can see, this clinical review of cholecystitis is structured to meet the standards of the final MBCHB CID long case, incorporating the physiological principles and diagnostic nuances required for an examiner level response. Basically, what he's saying is that I'm giving you the structure based on the configuration that you told me. So whenever you tell me to teach you cholecystitis, it's going to start definition, epidemiology, etiology, pathophysiology. It's going to give you everything with respect to the disease. So again, how I said we can use NotebookLM on its own without using other apps is that in the previous videos, if you remember, I talked about creating the Daxicam format using ChatGPT and inputting YKDD prompts. Now we can do everything in NotebookLM because of the latest update. We can configure so that prompt that we're going to put into ChatGPT, which we would have had to put every single time, is already here in NotebookLM. So I just tell it to teach me cholecystitis, and then from definition all the way to viva questions that they can ask is going to teach me cholecystitis. And so now you can see that again, look at the in-text citations. When you hover over here, it's going to give you, oh, cholecystitis. This information, this BOA sign, this particular information is coming from here. When you hover over here, it's saying that this information is coming from Badger. When you hover over here, this information is coming from Badger. So I don't need to go and read the whole Badger. All I need to read is the Badger specific to my topic. What I need to go and read is anatomy and physiology tutorial specific to my topic. And how does NotebookLM do that? NotebookLM does that for me based on my configuration. So now, when I'm going through this, again, I'm going through cholecystitis in a very orderly manner, right? Definition, etiology, pathophysiology, and all. And so from the start to the bottom, I'm seeing cholecystitis in a very orderly manner. As I said, I can also go and read the slides right here to make sure that what NotebookLM is giving me is correct. But then I can see cholecystitis in a very orderly manner. Let's do this again for the last time. Teach me acute appendicitis. So now, teach me acute appendicitis, and it's going to teach me acute appendicitis per my configuration in a very nice and organized structure. Now, we can actually, as I said, select the notebooks. So if I want it to only give me the output based on only acute appendicitis slides, then I can select that output. But if I want it to give me the output based on all of them, then I can just leave it like that. 87 sources, acute appendicitis. So every single place that acute appendicitis has been mentioned. So if acute appendicitis was mentioned when we were talking about hernia, NotebookLM will capture that information for me. If acute appendicitis was some way somehow mentioned when we were talking about chest trauma, NotebookLM will capture that information for me. You understand? And so that's the importance of building integrated notebooks. If you had built just one notebook on acute appendicitis and you ask it questions, it's just going to take information from only that one notebook. But when you build integrated notebooks, acute appendicitis will come from this textbook, it will come from this slides, it will come from here. Let's say you have a YouTube video on acute appendicitis, you put it inside. Let's say you have this, you have that. NotebookLM brings everything into one place and it's very fast, as you can see. So now, practically, let's look at this, right? I click on the slides for acute appendicitis so that NotebookLM is not like missing anything. And then, oh no, yes. So now I have the slides on acute appendicitis on the left. I have the output that NotebookLM is giving me on the right. And then you can see that is the same that is given. And as I said, if you hover, you can get more information. If you hover, you can get more information. This is acute appendicitis document, one of the OSCE templates on acute appendicitis. I don't need to go and read that OSCE template by my own. NotebookLM brings it for me. You understand? Which is very cool. So in one app, I can read the slides. I can have the app taking information from every single slide textbook, and then we can test ourselves. So here is where we understand, right? We can have the studio output whereby we can generate audios, slide decks, and all. So now, whenever you have the output like this, you can save it to notes. So when you save it to notes, let's focus on the studio output for now.